Welcome, everyone. I am so excited to be here and share with you Michelle Hoffmann's liner notes. Liner notes are the insight that the artists curate when they are creating some artistic expression, be it a manuscript, a work of art, a thought, a philosophical genius, whatever music it is, whatever it is. Liner notes is imperative insight and curated wisdom that you need to inspire and unblock all of your potential in your life. Are you ready to spark the attraction to attract, keep, and enjoy the right love in your life? I'm Michelle Hoffmann, your relationship coach. I help men and women go from lonely to loved. You can find me at relationshiping101.com. Welcome to Michelle Hoffmann's liner notes. Today, I get the privilege of sharing with you Christopher Linkenbach. Christopher helps teach men and women a framework to cultivating healthy and loving relationships so that they can experience what it's like to be completely in love with someone that also reciprocates that love. Christopher, thank you so much for joining me on Liner Notes today. You and I met one another because we have a similar way to share our gifts and skills and talents with the world so that people can live full and happy lives. And I absolutely adore the podcasts and the programs that you've put together called How to Be a Gentleman. And if nobody has taught you those skills, this is an opportunity to listen to Christopher Linkenbach because you may learn something right here, right now. Christopher, thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much, Michelle. It's such a pleasure to be on your show. And I just want to say that I also very much appreciate all the conversations and wisdom that you've provided thus far. So thank you so much.
Thank you. So who are the types of people who are naturally attracted? Who comes to you? And what is their dream come true?
Absolutely. So I typically work with men in the space of relationships. My podcast, Becoming a Gentleman, and basically everything that's organized around that is tailored from the perspective of a man trying to share their experience with men. However, I do also work with women clients as well. And typically, most of these individuals are sort of in what I would consider to be the spiritual or new age space. And a lot of these individuals are individuals who work with the understanding of masculine and feminine energies. And that is also part of my teaching as well, is within those realms. And typically, what the process is they go through and they're typically looking for love and relationships. And it's usually an individual who's just sort of seeking something. And I typically like to frame my coaching experience with Joseph Campbell's Hero's Journey.
Yeah.
And so when I speak with individuals, we don't exactly know exactly why they are coming to me. All we know is that there is some sort of calling within them that is happening. And it is our job through the work of the experience and the coaching experience to understand what is that calling and what are they seeking through experience and guidance.
So how did you come to this?
Absolutely. So I would say, first and foremost, I love love. I absolutely love being in relationships. I love understanding just basic dating principles. And I would say that through that deep curiosity of understanding relationships, I originally was not good with any of this. I'm not somebody who I would consider myself to be a natural with women in any way at all whatsoever. And in my experience, I've had to learn how to cultivate healthy and loving relationships. I've had to learn how to become a gentleman, right? And it was actually through heartbreak and getting my heart stomped on and trying to cultivate relationships in my own life that I started to recognize I have no clue what I'm doing. And that was when I realized that 99% of people out there don't really have a framework for dating. And so my journey began with heartbreak, and I actually began in Salamanca, Spain at about 3 a.m.
Oh,
Yep. And I was sitting alone on a park bench, and I was just sobbing. And I knew that I never wanted to experience that kind of pain again in my life. And I recognized there were so many traits inside of me, codependency and narcissism and the classic nice guy syndrome. So there's like all this going on inside of me. And I didn't recognize all this at the time, but it was through this immense pain that I gained the strength and the purpose of wanting to deepen my understanding of this. And it was never to come back into teaching the space. It was just to, in my own sense, to dive into it so I could learn how to do it myself. And I actually ended up making a commitment to myself to remain abstinent for a year after that. And I went through a process of just taking time and space to cultivate independence within myself and to allow myself to feel comfortable and composed in my own skin. And at the time of my heartbreak, it was harder for me to be single than it was to be in a relationship. So I chose to be in a relationship because that was my coping mechanism for loneliness. And at the end of this year, at the end of the course of this abstinence, it was harder for me to be in a relationship than it was to be single. And that's how I knew it was time to be in a relationship, because that's where my growth would be. Right.
Wow, what a journey. One of the things that I've learned in my journey, and I've developed, people call this one of my many quotes, when the pain of the problem is greater than the action required to resolve it, that's when you take action. So in your story, what you were learning about yourself in Spain at 3 a.m. is that you never wanted to feel this kind of heartbreak again. It was so painful to have that shattered loss that you decided to be in a relationship with yourself, it sounded like. And that was a very new, outside your comfort zone experience for you. And when you understood that you were stabilized and safe in a relationship with yourself, then you realized that you were a new person and you could contribute in a new and healthy way to a relationship in a partnership with someone else. What an incredibly robust educational journey that you are generously now helping other people through so that they can also learn this in their own hero's journey, in their own timeline, in their own life and love story.
Yes. And I want to preface that too by also saying that I had help along the way, right? I had mentors, and I had dating coaches, and I experienced secondhand information through books. Like, there was so much help that I had along the way that I want to be able to return that help. It's almost like when you're in a dating situation, you don't have a framework. It's almost like there's a dark cave in front of you, and you're kind of like feeling your way through, and you're hitting your head and you're stubbing your toe. But if there's somebody who's walked that cave before, they can hold your hand and guide you through right to the end of that cave. And I just want to be able to provide that for somebody else who may feel that there is this dark cave and they don't have a framework for healthy dating relationships. And, you know, I may not have all the answers, but I may have a step or two ahead where I can show you a path, right? So
it's such a gift. One of my clients recently was telling me, she said, you know, I clearly didn't learn this at home. I didn't learn it in my family. I didn't learn it from my friends. And there's no class on this taught in an academic environment. And she says, that's why I'm coming to you, because this is an education that's clearly missing from my life. And people often will be like, oh, it'll just happen. I'll know it when I know it. And, you know, in all matters of the heart, I would agree. When it comes to love, I say you don't always know when it's wrong, but you know when it's right. You know when it's right beyond a shadow of a doubt. So if you're in a situation where you're uncertain, then there may be something out of alignment, and going to somebody who's got this experience, who knows how to articulate it in such a way that, like Christopher can, you know, make a clear and open, well-lit path for gentlemen who may have been wondering, am I running into the same problem in relationships over and over again? Why is somebody calling me codependent or narcissistic or experiencing the nice guy syndrome? Because you don't have the same opportunity to live this full and robust life when there are things blocking your potential. So, Christopher, what are some of the things that you do to help guide somebody from being in this dark cave, knowing that the relationships that they're in aren't, the most supportive, aren't as robust as they could be? So when someone comes to you, how do you help guide them on their own personal hero's journey to living their best love life?
Absolutely. Yes. So first and foremost, I have a coaching program. It's a 3-month program where I do go through a structured course to kind of just explain the fundamentals of dating and relationships. And I also apply that weekly with one-on-one coaching calls to basically just set up and hold accountability throughout that process. But I think it's more so an opportunity to really just dive into a deepening of the understanding, because it seems like when individuals want healthy love and relationships, that's like the external of what they want, but what they're really looking for is a feeling inside themselves. What they're really looking for is love. And it's really trying to honor and understand, okay, well, how can we get you there? How can we get you to feel those feelings, maybe even before you're in a relationship, those feelings of security and comfort and self-love, so that you're able to provide and bring something to the relationship as opposed to just extrapolating from it. So
that's beautiful. Will you share with us maybe either client stories or examples of, who you get from what I call Pain Island to Pleasure Island?
absolutely. So I would say that I typically work with men who would consider themselves to be nice guys, right? And so let's just quickly describe what a nice guy is. A nice guy is, another good name for it is a people pleaser, or an individual who's constantly doing things for others at the sacrifice of their own needs. And what's interesting about this is nice guys are actually considered narcissists, or there's at least a narcissistic tendency within that. And that narcissistic tendency, even though it is people pleasing, you think you're doing things for others, in reality, you are doing things for others to get your needs met, right? So whether that's in the form of love and relationships, you saying, I love you to somebody only to hear it back, not just to say it from your heart, or even if you want to talk about sexual intimacy, doing something for others to receive something back, as opposed to just giving from a centered place in your being because you truly care about this other person, right? So nice guys are also very afraid of facing confrontation. So typically what they do is if they are confronted with something, they shut down. And so these are the clients that I'm typically working with. And so what we're doing during this program is basically just diving into and trying to understand, where do these tendencies develop, and how can we start bringing out more of that authentic male masculinity that they have at their core, right? That they may be buried. And my whole premise, becoming a gentleman, really breaks down into that word gentleman. And that's really what we're trying to teach, is gentleness. And there's this huge misconception that gentleness is in some form weakness, right? We've been taught as men that we are supposed to seek validation through women, through money, through the amount of beers that we can drink, right? Which are all extremely unhealthy patterns that we have this condition to believe that we seek validation from as men. We are not judged as a society as men by our commitment to truth, by the openness of our hearts, and by our commitment to service, right? So it's reframing the narrative of what it means to be a man and to be a gentle man, right?
It's such a difference. When I'm working with women, what they're seeking is somebody who they can share and connect with and co-create a relationship. And if somebody is coming in, and as you were saying, even I call them, the givers or the people pleasers, as you're talking about, there's a reason why somebody will give And it's they're getting something out of it. To
Mhm.
have a deeper understanding of the why and what that is, it could be self-sacrifice, like you were saying. And it's like, oh, I'm giving so that you can be raised up in some way. And it's society, as you were saying, gives an altruistic benefit to these givers. And whatever it is that they're giving, it could be money, time, resource, service, whatever it is, or just giving up of themselves and their own choices to give to the other. But at some point, the people pleasers or givers, from my experience, if they give too much, they're almost training their partner to receive or take from them. And then when their partner is accustomed to taking, then the giver, the people pleaser, is like, I've given you all I have and more. Why would you take more? And then there's this wall of resentment that's built up of like, how could you take more than I have to give? Again, one of the other things I say is take what you need, not more than what you need. Give what you can, not more than what you have. So that there's balance in that give and take. So these people pleaser nice guys are like the greatest guys in the world because they really are all in. They're coming into the relationship all in, ready to give. They're already primed for that. So I see these guys as ideal. They just need to be matched, like with, like I say, a matcher or someone who can receive but isn't a taker. So I think part of the matching is relevant in there also, and knowing the why. Why are you a people pleaser? Like you said, you help them understand the why. What are you getting out of it? Gorgeous. Once you have now identified a gentleman, for example, who may be gentil, which doesn't mean lacking masculinity. It means being present, being accountable, being responsible, knowing grace and ease to move through a situation, not, more than anything else from my definition. When you help a gentleman understand who he is and why he behaves in the way that he does, what's the next thing that you share with him on his hero's journey?
So I think that it's really important to first recognize that we have this narrative in our culture that in some way there's this fallacy of you need to love yourself first before finding love. And life, the entire journey of it is learning to love yourself. You never all of a sudden open your heart and get to this place of unconditional love and surrender to yourself at all times, right? You can have moments of that and then it kind of goes away and then you come back to it. And it's like this constant remembering of that. So it isn't about finding complete unconditional love and surrender. It's about honoring where you are and taking action steps to moving forward. So first things first, if your internal belief systems and nervous system are not functioning properly in the realm of just how you perceive yourself, let's work on that first. And let's identify those, as you're saying. And once we've started to work with that and start to understand it, then we can start changing some of the external things, right? Then we can start taking some action. But if we start taking action and you are carrying around these wounds that you haven't healed from yet, even if I can get you into a relationship, after those first 2 months, after the honeymoon stage or however long that lasts for you, you're going to crumble. You're not going to have a base to stand on because you've been presenting this mask to the world. So if we can tap you into that vulnerable state of who you are and you present that, then you don't have to worry about anything, because if you're vulnerable and you're showing who you are in that moment that you meet somebody, then you're not worried 4 or 5 months down the road that they're going to leave you because they find out who you really are. Because you've discovered and you've held that space of love within yourself to stand on your own 2 feet with who you are. So getting to that space, and then we can take some action steps. Then we can start talking about, okay, where can we meet your potential lover? What do they look like? What are the characteristics? Maybe we need to start changing up your style a little bit. Are you dressing every day like you're going to go out and meet the love of your life? different things like that. And starting to, ask certain questions like, where would I meet my lover? What are they doing? What are some things that they like to do? And really at the end of the day, I think it's so important that you, and especially as men today, I think we get so wrapped up in the relationship. It's so important to go about just living your life and finding something that complements that, as opposed to making it the sole focus of your life, right?
Absolutely. It's so, so true. So it sounds so simple when someone who has walked the journey says, here's the framework and here are the simple steps to get there. People think that they can do it on their own. What would be a clear signal that they are running into obstacles and pitfalls, and it's time to reach out to somebody who is a relationship coach like you or me?
Absolutely. I think that something that you may recognize as well is people don't really reach out to us when things are going really well. They're typically reaching out to us after a heartbreak, after, maybe an ex, or they're feeling lonely and they're looking for love and relationships. And I think that some of the signs that maybe you aren't doing things right is typically what I'm seeing with a lot of men is either A, they don't even have the confidence to start and go up and talk to women. They're stuck either on dating apps and hiding, or they do get a woman out on a date and they can maybe make it 1, 2, 3 dates, but then it fizzles out, right? Or they make it, that first 2 months, and things start to fizzle out,
What do you
right?
mean when things fizzle out? Their confidence fizzles out?
The relationship fizzles out. They
Okay.
stop. They get ghosted, right?
Oh,
Somebody
okay.
just stops talking to them. They're no longer interested. Like they can have those 1, 2, 3 dates, and it's like if you can have the ability to get a potential partner out on those first couple of dates and things are going well, and then things all of a sudden come out just out of nowhere. And that's what was happening to me is, you'd get those first couple dates, you go a couple months, and then things are going great, hot and heavy, and then out of nowhere it's like the chemistry is just off. And it's like that's a fantastic signal of,
Right.
okay, things are not going well for me right now. So I would say that even just asking yourself the question of, do you have a model in your life of a healthy, loving relationship? Can you name a couple out there who you would feel comfortable modeling that after? I'm sure you could name, as Esther Perel says, successful entrepreneurs and businessmen and businesswomen. You probably name 20 to 30 right now, but could you name a healthy, loving relationship that you would like to model yourself after? And if not, you don't have a model, you don't have a framework, right? So I think that those are some signals, those are some red flags of maybe stepping into a coaching program or education.
And how does somebody reach out to you, Christopher?
Absolutely. So you can go to my Instagram, which is my name, Christopher_Linkenbach. And then you can also schedule a free coaching call with me on my website, becomingagentleman.love. I also have a Calendly link, which I'm sure that you will have in the description.
Yep.
Well, yes. And that is the best way to get in touch with me, schedule a time that works well for you. And we can start, that first session is free, and we can start diving into sort of what it is that you are, where you're at and what you're looking for. And that's how you can reach out to me. And on my website, there's also a little bit more of an explanation of what I do and the whole program as well. And you can also go to my YouTube channel. I have a bunch of videos specifically tailored towards men, but also towards women, which is understanding dating dynamics and masculine and feminine energies. And then, of course, Michelle, you were on my podcast, the Becoming a Gentleman podcast. Our episode was just released yesterday. So that is on YouTube as well.
That's so awesome. So if you are a gentleman who is sincerely seeking the love of your life, and you are ready to reach out to somebody like Christopher Linkenbach, who helps men and women by giving them a framework to cultivate healthy and loving relationships so they can experience what it's like to be completely in love with someone who also reciprocates that love, then reach out to Christopher and find the love of your life today. Thank you for joining me, Christopher, on Michelle Hoffmann's Liner Notes.
Thank you so much, Michelle.